Hi, I'm Rick Kaler. Thanks for joining me. Last week I pointed out the strong improbability of Social Security failing despite President Trump's promise to support eliminating the payroll taxes that fund it. Accomplishing this would require not only his reelection, but also Republicans retaining control of the Senate and regaining control of the House. There's only a minuscule chance of all three taking place. Even if the Republicans controlled Washington, it's no guarantee they would actually deliver on the president's promise. An all-Republican Congress and White House couldn't deliver on the number one promise made to voters in the 2016 election to eliminate Obamacare. It's even more unlikely they would cut Social Security benefits. If you remember, in 2016, legislation was introduced to raise the starting age for Social Security benefits to age 69 by 2050. It went absolutely nowhere. And that was in a Republican-controlled Congress and administration. Of course, since 2020 is the year of the unthinkable, maybe life might be found on Mars, and maybe the payroll tax might be eliminated. Let's examine what could happen if all that came together and it were eliminated. First, the Federal Reserve works in partnership with the U.S. Treasury to create currency. All other units of government, private equities or entities, individuals, households, you and me, companies, we're users, not creators of currency. In our case, the US dollar. I mean, simply put, the Federal Reserve owns the printing press. Nobody else does. So therefore, the Federal Reserve controls the money supply of the United States. The US Treasury, which I'll refer to as the right hand, borrows money from the Federal Reserve, the left hand, to mint coins, print cash, and otherwise spend on various government programs. It's really important to understand that the federal government cannot go bankrupt in US dollars. The right hand is not going to foreclose on the left hand. And if the Treasury needs money to spend on anything, it simply borrows the money from the Federal Reserve, which creates the money that's needed. Basically, the U.S. Treasury has an unlimited line of credit that will never come due. Now, there is a fly in this ointment. While currency issuers like the U.S. are not constrained by the amount of their own currency they can create and spend, they are constrained by inflation. So it behooves central banks like the Federal Reserve to manage the money supply prudently in order to avoid impoverishing their citizens through devaluing the currency, i.e. inflation. The big takeaway here is to understand that the debt of a sovereign currency issuer is default free. The UK, Japan, China cannot default on obligations in their own currency. The issuer can always meet debt obligations in the currency in which it issues. So, what would happen if Social Security were no longer funded by payroll taxes? In his August 26, 2020 Forbes article, yes, Trump's proposed permanent tax cut would gut Social Security by 2023, Eric Sherman writes, now Trump has said that Social Security wouldn't fail and that it is possible to fund it different ways, like out of general revenues. Such an approach would mean only shifting the spending from one pocket to another, requiring that the government revenue would have to make it up somehow, end quote. The article's alarmist headline was based on a projection from Stephen Goss, chief actuary at the Social Security Administration, which assumed not only an end to the payroll tax, but also no provision for replacement of the funding. Yet, Congress could authorize Social Security benefits to be funded in the same manner that we fund Medicaid, directly by the U.S. Treasury. The Treasury gets that funding from general tax revenue and makes up the annual shortfall by, quote, borrowing from the Federal Reserve, which simply creates the money needed because they own the printing press, right? That's why there's absolutely no reason that the Social Security system should ever run out of money. Politicians will not allow it to run short and will call on the Fed to fund whatever is needed. Thanks for listening.